Hi, Year 10. So, yesterday I had asked you to do these questions on page 62. So, I'm going to go over them if you just get your pen and your answers out ready so that you can mark and correct your work. Okay. Now, I have done exactly what I asked you not to do. So, I have answered mine on this page, but you'll see it's a wee bit too squashed. So, yours should be done in your classwork book. So, for each of these questions, we had to, for part A, find the gradient. For part B, write down the value of y where it crosses the y-axis, and then find the equation of the line. So for question 1, here's my working out for finding the gradient. So for all of these, I have used y2 minus y1, all divided by x2 minus x1. And these are the 2 points. If you remember yesterday, I marked on points for you to use in this because the photocopy isn't great. So whenever I substitute in my points, I have used this as my x2, y2, and this is my x1, y1. Substituted my points, solved, and I got the gradient for this one to be 1. It crosses the y-axis at 3. No, that's a lie, 2. So here's my answer for this. So for A, the gradient is 1. Mark yours and correct it. B, it crosses the y-axis at 2. And then for part D, it had asked us to write the equation of the line. So remember, all lines are in the form y equals mx plus c. M is the gradient, so whatever value you got for your gradient, you put in front of the x. And c is the y-intercept, so that number that we've written down for where the graph crosses the y-axis, that's what we put in there. So because my gradient was 1, 1x, we just write it as x. If you've put 1x in there, that's fine. You can mark that right. Okay, so y equals x, and then c, the y-intercept was 2. So y equals x plus 2. Exact same method for the rest of them. So here's my working out for the gradient in question 2. I also got a gradient of 1 there. The y-intercept was 3. So that meant the equation of my line, y equals mx plus c, the gradient was 1, so 1 in front of the x, or you can leave it out. And then the y-intercept was 3, so that's why it's plus 3 there, because that goes in for c. Okay. Question 3. Here's my graph, and you can pause and look through my working out there, but you should have got your gradient to be 2. Crosses the y-axis at 3. So that means the equation of my line is y equals 2x plus 3. And then question 4, there's my working out. You should have got a gradient of minus 1. Crosses the y-axis at 3. So whenever I substitute those into, or not substitute, and replace m and c with those values, I get y equals minus x plus 3. If you put y equals minus 1x plus 3, that's right as well. Okay, over on page 63 then, there's some questions that I need you to do. So it gives you instructions here about what to do, like with your axes and things like that. Follow those. Then for these questions, you have to draw the graph. So they've given you the equation of the line. They've told you what x values to use. And if you remember, we do our little table of values. So we have x is minus 3, x is 1, and x is 3. Substitute for x into this and find the corresponding y value every time. If you can't remember that, look back a few videos and you'll get a wee recap of that. Draw the graph and then use your graph to find y when x is minus 2 and x is 2. So for that, so say your graph looks like that, okay? You'll go to x is minus 2, you'll go until it hits your graph, and then you'll read across. Whenever x is 2, go to 2, go up until it hits your graph, and then read across. Okay, so that's how you'll get those answers, and if you do that for all 4 of those questions. Now it also asks find the gradient of the line and the value of y where it crosses the y-axis. Well, sure, we can tell that just from looking at the equation. The gradient is the number in front of the x term, and it's going to cross the y-axis at 1. Okay, now there's another wee set of questions as well. Over on 64, I want you to do just down to question 9, okay, for today. We'll do these other ones another day. In these ones, write down the gradient, m, and the y-intercept for each of these lines. So I'll do number 1. So for number 1, m, which is the letter that we use for the gradient, is the number in front of the x, so it's 4. And c, which is the letter for the y-intercept. Remember, all graphs are in this form, so it's the number on its own, so it's 7. Okay, so for these ones you do not have to draw the graph, but for the questions here, 5 to 8, you do need to draw the graph and then use your graph to find these values. So you'll be doing this in your class workbook as well because it's squares. Okay, nice wee short one from me today. Let me know if you need any help.